There we go. Look at this. They look amazing.
Okay. So cute.
Right. All right, well, good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get started with our segment for today. I am Juliette Abdel, the host of the Health and Wealth broadcasts that we have every Friday here on KUHS Denver, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. I have branded myself as a self-care boss, and I've always explained this at every segment to just reiterate it if you are a new viewer. I myself am a 2-time aneurysm survivor, spokeswoman, and educator around heart health, and have published books around self-care advocacy because it's what helped me overcome my aneurysms and really get to being alive and here with you guys today. So I always like to start out the week with giving you all some sort of either an encouragement story. Generally, it's self-deprecating humor, something I've had go wrong for myself. But instead, this week, I want to highlight a few things. We are in the month of March, which is Women's Month. So woohoo on that front. You'll see some amazing speakers that we bring in that are just as empowered as our guest here today. It's also today is Denims for Dementia Day. So if you didn't know that, the hashtag is Denim for Dementia, and it's this movement of wearing denim and all things around jeans or items that represent denim, so that they can raise awareness around dementia and all those people that are living with that or have loved ones that may be as well, or family, friends, etc. And then the final two things. So it's also World Happy Day, and the other day was World Compliment Day. So it is just a bunch of amazing positive things that are coming up for the month of March. And with that, it takes me over to the introduction of our awesome guests with me. And Catherine her and I met virtually. So this is like our first time meeting in person.
In person, yeah. It's been a long time coming. I feel like it's been 2 years of kind of some back and forth communication,
Absolutely.
Liking posts, lots of support. So this is very exciting for me. I love when I get to meet face to face with people for the first time.
Likewise, and it's always so much more fun when you know that person is equally as impactful in the community, doing some amazing things. You wear so many hats. So,
so many.
I will have you, highlight a few of those or all of those for our listeners or viewers. And as you think through which of those you want to highlight or all of them, I want to encourage all of you that are tuned in to hit the share button on this video so others see that we're live. Make sure you engage with us by liking and reacting to the post along the way.
I'd love to. So my name is Catherine Vanstra, and yes, I do wear many hats, so we're going to kind of sum it all up super quick. I am the current Miss Universal Petite for 2022.
Yes.
We're coming up into a new pageant season, which is really exciting for me, so I'll be giving up my international title in July in Cozumel, Mexico. Always a fun trip.
Yes.
And then I'm going to be attending the national pageant for Petite USA, and that's kind of been my home for the last 3 years. I've been with the system since late 2021. So it's very exciting to see how it's grown and developed just in my time, but it's very bittersweet too.
I bet.
I love my petite family, so that is one hat that I wear. I'm also a mom to a beautiful 8-year-old who's a competitive dancer and keeps me on my toes all the time. It's always something new and exciting with her. I love to see her grow, and then I get to learn new things too with her. I'm an automotive marketer by trade, but I'm also branching out into analytics, and I have a portfolio of some other clients through my office. Love doing that. It's super exciting. One day I get to work with cars and all fun things fast. The next day I'm working with hair extension companies, or even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu companies, which is so fun. So I love the kind of up and down of that. There's something that's always changing and growing. And then finally, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. And so a lot of my community-based work has to do with serving our veterans. I just joined a grapevine group that I'm very excited about, and it's called Women Veterans for Good. So I'm excited to see how that grows and develops as one of the founding members, and see what we can do in the community to help bolster other female veterans and other veterans that might be suffering from PTSD, and employment crises and things like that. So it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us a nice overview of what you do. And I mean, how do you fit all of this? This is just like so many amazing things that you're doing.
Yeah.
And I will give you a plug and say, you mentioned your little daughter, and you are also incredibly supportive as a mother. So I see those posts that you're continuing to make, taking her to her competitive types of programs that she has. What?
It's not even on.
Which one?
Number 3. What? It's not even on.
Why not?
3 is not even on.
Why not?
You're on 1 and 2.
Well, I never have to do 3.
2 and 3.
This one?
Yeah.
You usually have this. You know this, right? Like, you've only taught me to do 1 and 2.
1 is the Zoom.
Yeah. Okay. So, Henry. Well, I don't know how much of.
This is live business, people. There's always going to be technical issues.
You love the technical issues.
Yep.
So let's have you, now that you've said everything that you do, repeat to folks everything that you do.
All right. So what I do is I'm the current Miss Universal Petite. I go back to give up my title in July, and I'll be going back to our national pageant in August, which is in Milwaukee. Very exciting things. I've been with that system since 2021 versus a state title holder, then national and international, and it's been incredible. So many friends, and so many incredible women doing great things. And for those of you that don't know, and I didn't mention this the first time, it's specifically a system in pageantry for women 5, 6, and below.
Yes.
Because when you're small, you're in the minority, and let me tell you, like, these women are. It's not about our height, it's about our depth, and we always say that. Our director says that, and it's really true. We're doing incredible things in the community. I'm a mom, a single mom to an 8-year-old who's a competitive dancer. She's just she's my everything. She's my sunshine. She's the reason for what I do. Sass 24/7. And sometimes she'll say things, I'm like, where did you learn that? But, it's really fun. And I love being a part of her life. Love watching her grow and how fearless she is. And she's a little rebellious. So always great. And then I work in automotive marketing primarily, but also have a portfolio of about a dozen other clients in all different types of industries. Love doing that. Moving into analytics. I'm really excited for another summit I have coming up where I get to be part of a panel and talk about how we use data science to move our companies and grow our mindsets, which is really exciting. And then I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm one of the founding members of Women Veterans for Good that is just starting through the Grapevine community, and I'm super excited about that. So there we are.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, for your service and for being such a supportive mama to your little one. I see you really doing some amazing things around that. But you shared something that, hopefully our listeners, the more that I bring some of our awesome guests on here, can learn and understand is that pageantry really brings in a diversity of folks.
Yes.
And it is not, we're not in the beauty world all the time. Like, when you talk about like these analytics that you're doing and like automotive, you're like, you think that it's so far removed from beauty and pageantry.
You would think so, but it does not matter what system I've been involved in, whether it's been the America or the USA system or even Petite. These women are complex. They're from every industry. I've met doctors, I've met lawyers, I've met business owners, I've met women that are in the agricultural industry, and it's incredible. Like, there is no limit to the education, to their background, and everyone from every walk of life. And I tell you what, I learned so much from these women. They're inspiring, and they're incredible, and they're fiery. They have that like passion in their heart, not only for what they do in their personal lives, but what they have to bring to pageantry, through their platforms.
Yeah, and I can't think of any other group of women that really are so impactful in terms of community service. And it often goes not as understood. Like, you just see them on stage, you see them competing, you don't learn that it is a process. And as you were sharing, it's 3 years that you have been committed to an organization.
Yeah, and it's really funny. And in some ways, I feel that our community service has really shifted. I think that was a necessary pivot because of COVID. And what my platform was initially at the outset, it's evolved and changed so much because we had this period where we couldn't physically be anywhere to help people. So you had to really open your eyes and really go to where the needs of the community were. And these women have risen to the challenge across every system to really take that on and say, where is my talent and my service need, where can I do the most good?
Absolutely. So holding an international title is huge, right? And you were out. So Cosmo, Mexico is where the next competition is for that international title. Were you in that same space the previous year? Okay.
So what's wild is this is actually a cruise. Okay. All of us girls get on with our 20, bags of luggage onto this huge ship. It's a Carnival cruise. It takes port in Tampa, and we slowly cruise down to Mexico. And we compete everything on ship on a stage. And that boat is moving and rocking. You're in these 6-inch ridiculous heels, and you just have to adapt. But it was amazing, and I'm excited to go back. There's a little less stress this time because I just get to sit there and like revel in it and watch all these other women bring their A game. And because it's an international pageant, it's a whole different level of glitz and glamour. There is not a casual event on that boat. Like even when we have these casual events where she's like, oh, I'm providing the tank top, you wear shorts and whatever. The shorts are like decked out in rhinestones.
Yes.
The boots are over the knee and just like Swarovski crystals, and you're like, okay, no one comes to play here, but it's amazing. I love it.
You're not messing around. That is the fun part of it, right? Like there's so much stress, there's so much worry when you're going to compete that when you finally are putting together that piece of fashion or the wardrobe that you worked so hard on, like you really start feeling like, okay, this is it, right? Like all my ideas have come together. So you took to social media a few weeks ago, and
I already know what you're going to talk about. I'm a little worried. I think I might have dug myself into a little bit of a hole here.
Well, you did so fabulous because you spoke your heart, right? Yeah. So you were seeing a few things around health and wellness, particularly nutrition and different coaches, and you saw a need to really vocalize how it's been hard on you to see these women that are investing into their wellness, but they're not getting the results that they're wanting, and they're being taught some things that are not necessarily the right things.
Yes, and that's kind of the dark side of any beauty or pageantry industry, is you have these people that are preying on women that are looking for a result, but they're not getting the right advice. We'll put it that way. And what I was seeing was not just coaches, air quotation, coaches, because anyone can get a training certificate online, but that doesn't mean you have the actual credentials to be giving health advice. And even worse, I saw actual competitors offering fellow competitors advice on nutrition and fitness. And I'm going, where is this coming from? Because I know what you do. Your social is public. We can see that you have never worked a day in your life in fitness and health, and it's so concerning to me, particularly when you see plugs of supplements. I don't know, have you taken supplements? Have I taken supplements? Probably so. Right. But was it done with research and intent, and was it given from, good sourced advice? I would like to believe so, But, what's crazy is just how many people take advantage of that. Absolutely. Whether it's because they're part of an MLM and they're trying to, increase their sales. That's like my number one pet peeve. And, that's not to poo-poo on MLMs. I'm sure there's great ones out there, but when you don't have the nutritionist background, leave it to the pros, and that whole segment and story that I was talking about, like I have friends that are nutritionists. I have one who's absolutely lovely. She works for the Denver Children's Hospital as a nutritionist, and I was like, what do I do? I was like, what credentials do these people need to look for? And so I listed them all out on my story, and I feel very passionate about that, because if there's one thing that we can't do as women, we can't give each other bad advice. We can't try and sabotage one another, whether it's intentional or not. You have to have the expertise and the knowledge and the training and the schooling to do anything that has to do with the body and mind. That's just how it is. Absolutely. There's a lot of things that you don't need a degree for or a certificate for, but I feel very strongly that health in every form is one of those things.
Absolutely, yes. It needs to have that credibility factor behind it. And we did have Katie from Joy Wellness with us a couple weeks back, and she really shed light on a lot of the things that you should be looking for, different indicators in your body, and who you should consult with, and how they're set up to answer a lot of those questions, because sometimes you see a supplement somewhere and then you see it somewhere else, and then you don't know what you don't know. And so the labels are in front of you when you're not getting the right direction, you're taking things. And so that was a perfectly well said statement, I feel like. And I'm glad that you felt passionate enough to go out there and share your opinion on it.
Yeah, it's like you said, the credibility is huge. And if the person that's trying to help you is not taking an accurate assessment of where you're currently at versus where you're trying to go,
yes, then what are
right
they
there,
basing it on?
right there
right?
should be a red flag. If they're not taking the time to get to know you and where you're at, just write them off. Move on to the next.
Totally. And and have that open mind, as you were sharing. Not everyone's out there trying to direct you in the wrong way, right? Especially those companies that are out there. I know I personally had a couple reach out to me, and I'm an avid label reader. I am, right? Like, there are things I will not put in my body. I'm just not willing to compromise, right?
Absolutely.
And so when I always try and be open and respectful and mindful, and I tell them, I'll read this. If it makes sense, I'll go with it. But then I started reading through it, and then I'm like, this is exactly what it is.
This is
the answer, right? Like, it's not what I want. And so it's totally okay for you to say no and explain your why if you want to, but you don't have to explain it.
Oh, never.
Either, right? Like, if it's not good for your health and your wellness, then just, So you've been on this journey. You've stayed fit also. With the number of things that you're doing, right? And so how do you fit in your gym time? How do you fit in the nutrition in between all the hats that you wear?
So, it's, for a while I had a really great schedule where I could work out before work, and now that I start earlier in the day, that's just not feasible anymore.
Okay.
So I wait until my daughter's at the studio, which is 3 days a week, and she's there for 4 hours. So I drop her off at dance, I go to the gym, I get myself ready. When I'm done, I go to the grocery store. So that's every Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday for me.
Okay.
And that's my cycle and my rhythm. And then I'm super guilty of having every single fitness app under the sun. I love Alo Moves for Pilates. I do have a Peloton, and I do the HIIT for those. So it's just about finding, what you can do in your space and time. And I'll tell you what, there are days that I'm just like, I am not in the mood.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, 20 minutes, I can find 20 minutes and get through that, and at least I've done something. But it's so important, not only to my physical health, but my mental well-being. That's my time to decompress. You put on the headphones, you listen to music, you work out your feelings, and you're like, I feel better. So much better.
Absolutely. No, and I think you've given some great nuggets, and that's, you work around your schedule, you find a routine, and really create that habits of knowing what works. And one of the things that you just said that was so important is any movement's better than no movement.
Absolutely.
Right? And so even if it is 20 minutes or like a fast-paced walk or getting in your step, you're still doing something. And often that changes that mindset of I'm not in the mood, because you get done and you're like, man, I'm feeling a lot more positive after this.
Absolutely. And what's crazy to me too is sometimes I'll even consider deep cleaning my house a workout. I don't know about you, but like when you're in the nitty-gritty of it, you're like, I'm sweating, my heart rate is up, I'm going after this dirt like it's my job right now. Like, I mean, just little things. Like you said, just keep moving.
That's so funny, and it is even more so because I was finally cleaning my mirror today, one of those that are in the, and I'm going up and down. I was like, this is a workout.
Yeah,
like, my arm is feeling it. Like, should I be feeling it in my legs at this point?
Yes.
Right? So, that's so funny. You mentioned to us that your platform has adapted, especially over the years throughout COVID and all of that, and your focus as a veteran has been a big part of what you do. So let's talk a little bit more about what your platform has been.
So before COVID started, I was really neck deep in my work with veterans, and my educational background is actually in psychology, and that started while I was in the Marine Corps. And what I was doing there is I wanted to be a therapist. Really is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in therapy. So I got my undergraduate degree, and then I started my master's program for marriage and family therapy with an emphasis in military therapy. COVID happened. I couldn't do my clinical hours in person. I got 3 credits away from graduating, and I was like, all right, it is what it is, on to the next. So I worked for Houses for Warriors and the Colorado Veterans Project, and did a lot of volunteerism through them, which was great, and I loved it. But then the world shut down, and we couldn't do these fundraising events. We couldn't do, the runs in Colorado Springs and things like that. There was just no in person. So I was kind of sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, how do we get on track? Because community needs don't stop just because the world shuts down. In fact, they get elevated at that time.
Right.
And so I developed a platform called I See You. And it's really about meeting the community where they're at and taking your talents or even interest, even if it's not perfectly aligned in your platform, and going out there and just doing it. Yeah. So one of the things I thought about was, how can I do the most good? And I don't know that I created this concept, but what I'm calling it is circular community service. Yeah. So what that means is I would go take, I don't know, a dozen 12-packs of soda, seltzer waters to a fire station, a police station, and then I would set out a jar that had a little note that said, hey, I want your soda tabs. Please put them in here. Everything goes to Ronald McDonald House, and you can turn that refuse aluminum into actual money for the Ronald McDonald House to use for meals, because when COVID happened, you couldn't go prep those meals in person anymore. You couldn't be there with these families to commune over a difficult situation over a meal. It turned into prepackaged and catering prepped food only. It's a huge expense.
Oh, yes.
It's huge. It's, you can't go buy a box of spaghetti for $1.95 and prep it for 8 people. You're paying $10 per meal. And so that was kind of one of the things I did. And then animal shelters. Like, you can go hang out with animals. Like, so I got involved in Soul Dog Rescue, and I worked with the cats. And I'll tell you what, it's a miracle I don't have 20 cats at home, because you just fall in love with them, and they just need the attention and the love. And I'd go with my daughter, and we'd sit there for anywhere from 1 to 3 hours and just play with them and socialize them, and it was really great. And with that concept too, when I came to Petite USA, these women endured the pandemic just as everyone else did, but they made the most of it. And I saw people starting businesses. I saw them doing more incredible things more than ever. And so I asked the national director, Jenna Rhodes, who's incredible. If you've never even seen her, she's the most amazing and caring and loving human being you'll ever meet. And I wanted to bring the Presidential Service Award to Petite USA and get Petite USA as a registered system. And I was able to do that for the first time at Nationals last year. And the participation blew me away. Yeah. We had a ton of service hours, and someone in our elite division, Miss Barbie, if you're out there watching somewhere, I'll never forget her, over 8,000 hours of community service during her reign. It's incredible. Yeah. And these are women that have kids. These are women who are in college. These are teens that are in high school. And the way to recognize them was to give them this opportunity for this Presidential Service Award, because there are all types of pageant girls out there. They're the ones that wear the crown and the sash to events and are all glammed up. They're the ones that are in their t-shirt and a messy bun that don't take a darn picture. Yeah. That's me, And for those that are participating in what I call quiet community service, I think they still deserve that recognition.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it also speaks to, often when we have an understanding of an industry or a particular group of people, we only see what we see, and we don't see everything else, the impact that they're making outside of them competing. And often I think, especially the pageant industry, gets that bad rap, right? Like, it's just fashion, it's just glam, and it's just beauty, right? Like, there's no other, we can't be smart, we can't be impacting the community, apparently. Also.
Apparently.
But I know that that's one of the things that you also speak to, is this this view of beauty, this view of pageants in general, and how it's the subjectivity around that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So we all have our perspectives. It's our local and natural discourse to go, this is what I know, so that's how I see everything. Sure. It's kind of the opposite of the rose-colored goggles. It's you don't know what you don't know, and if you can't be open to receiving all the goods and the intricacies and the bads, then you're never going to really understand what people can do in that wheelhouse.
Yeah. So. And I know we just talked about how amazing the industry is in community service and community impact, and now we're going to touch on the beauty part of it.
Yeah, the other part.
The other part. So through this process, you've also become a beauty ambassador.
Yes.
And what does that mean? What does that entail for folks that may not be aware of that?
Yeah, so this was a complete surprise to me at the Petite National Pageant last August. Our hair and makeup team is Just Right Cosmetics. An incredible team, not only because they do the best glam that I've ever had in my life. But they also have a cosmetics line that they're really starting to bolster, and they're trying to rev up. And they selected me as their first and pioneering beauty ambassador. So what I get to do is I get to share the brand, what I love about it. I get to connect pageant girls to great makeup artists and hair artists. I get to share tutorials. I get to share, just like the looks that inspire me, because when we think about beauty, we can think, oh, it's vapid and it's shallow, but it's really an outlet for creativity. It's an outlet for our self-confidence. It's an outlet to really have a community around what seems really small and doesn't seem very important. But when we think about it, beauty is like a billions upon billions industry every single year. And you can look at different segments and different companies, and you can see what good they're doing or how they conduct themselves. And all these creators out there that are being innovative and they're creating art. It's really cool. It's a great way to just kind of sit there and get inspired.
And you said something that I generally say to like the really great makeup artists, right? That they are artists.
They are.
They're not just taking whatever method and applying it to you. They are working with you to really bring out the best of you. And that's another part of what pageantry does, is it highlights those things, those qualities that you have, or those factors that you don't necessarily think are beautiful, and when they show up and you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, and what's amazing is those artists, they can make or break you about how you feel on stage in your presentation. And when the full product is in front of you and you turn around, you look at yourself, if you have that like moment where your heart is filling and you're just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen myself in this light and capacity, you go out there and you perform at your top. Whereas, the opposite is also true. If you're just like, oh, I hate this lipstick color, I hate this makeup,
Absolutely.
And so a good makeup artist will always welcome that communication and say, do you want anything changed? What do you think? Say something.
Right, speak up.
Speak up.
Do not hold it for after the fact, because then it's past, right? And you could have fixed something that you would have liked a little bit better.
Absolutely.
For sure. So how long are you holding on to the beauty ambassador role? Is that something that concludes with your term as the international title holder?
Almost. I get to hang on to it just a couple months after the international title is gone. So I'll go back to Petite USA National Pageant in August, and that's when I'll officially turn it over, and I will be titleless for the first time in over 3 years, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with myself.
Right?
Juliet, tell me what to do.
I know.
Like,
well, you get into this habit, right? Where service is a big part, and going out there and impacting people and being a role model and doing all these things, that once you do pass off your title, you're just like, do I keep doing what I was, doing? Do I look for another avenue? And, a big part of it is that it's accountability too. Having a title is that continual pressure that you have to be performing to fill your cup. And that's how I view pageants, is it's so in contrast with what we do on a daily basis, but we need it.
It is. It's kind of a really interesting paradigm shift, because you're talking about that. Like, we want accountability in our own personal lives, but when we have that pressure in the public view, and we have that proverbial microphone in front of us all the time, it's like, what are we doing if we aren't using it?
Correct.
So, and it's funny, and then when you give it up, you're like, I should keep doing something, but that kind of that pressure that's sitting there on your shoulder is almost gone.
There.
You don't want it to be. You don't want it to just end just because you had a title,
Right.
And that's really, I think, where the quality of your character comes into play.
Sure.
Are you going to continue doing what you're doing, or, are you going to kind of shift it in a way? And I don't think there's anything wrong with a shift, and, I'm still trying to figure that out for myself. Am I going to dedicate myself to Petite for the rest of forever? Am I going to be the proverbial hype man at every pageant? I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I just, I'm like, I've done what I can do, and doors are open, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, and I think you said it so incredibly well, and that is, you have this pressure, you have this opportunity to do something, you keep doing it, and generally, all of those title holders that are holding, like you've been doing this already, and you weren't doing it just for the title. The title just was the icing on the cake.
Oh, absolutely.
So you'll continue doing this stuff, but it's the pressure component, right? obviously you have to, even on the days when you don't feel like it, right? When it's your year, you know that even if I don't feel like it, I'm going to get dressed and ready and go to this event because I RSVP to it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh man, and it's a commitment. It is a commitment. It is discipline. It is all those, high performing factors rolled into one. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of pressure. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, it's so hard to be beautiful. Yes, it absolutely is. But the other part of it too is just, you want to do something. You don't want to let anybody down. You don't want to let your directors down. You don't want to let your community down. You don't want to let your sister queens down.
Yeah.
You want to be the type of queen that other people want to emanate. And they look back on you and they'll always be like, oh yeah, she was amazing. Yeah. I think there's certain title holders, no matter what system it is, that stand out to us. And we're like, oh, of course, we know her. Yeah. We like her. Or opposite can be true.
Right, yeah.
Or we know her. Her reputation
for itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. And it's, I posted this on my story a while ago, and it was really trying to open people's minds to understanding that pageants are a sport, right? Like, it is more than the beauty. There's so much more that goes into it. So do we want to try and unpack that for people to understand how similar it can be to sports? And I know, and I'm drawing on this because you've been in sports too growing up.
So it's funny when I talk to people about pageantry, a lot of people don't know that I do it in my professional life just because they seem so segmented, particularly when you're in male-dominated industries. They do not care that you have a crown, and if they do care, it's kind of like, oh, that's cute or whatever. But I tell anyone that I get into that conversation about pageantry with, it's my extreme sport. It's not just a hobby. It is really an extreme sport because, again, that discipline and the commitment. It goes for your mental preparedness. It goes to your communication skills where you may or may not have a coach. It's hours of practicing your speaking and your presence and your walk. It's going to the gym. It's picking out a wardrobe. It's having a very decisive plan.
Right.
You cannot go into a pageant without a plan and wing it.
Right.
Totally. You cannot do it. You can't do it.
It shows.
It shows. And I think success is really preparation and opportunity. So if you're preparing for that opportunity, you're going to fare a lot better.
Totally.
And you see it all the time where you see girls that just have no clue what they're doing and they just fly by the seat of their pants. And I know.
Yeah.
You are spending so much time and money to get here. Like, make the most of this opportunity because you never know who your judges are. You never know who's watching. You never know what other directors might be sitting and go, you didn't win, but I want you in my system.
Yes. Yeah.
So the better that you can, show yourself off to the world. And I know that's kind of a weird way to say it, but we're paying to be judged.
You're presenting yourself.
Right.
And you're open to the criticism that comes with it.
You have to.
And that's the biggest, to what you just said, which was so perfectly said, which you plan and you give it your all. And I've never walked away from knowing that I've not given it my all, right?
Yeah.
Like and whether that's the best artist, right? And fundraising to get that to make me feel like this, I'm on my A game all the way to, giving it forward during those weeks or the weekend. Because at the end of it, when I walk off, I'm like, okay, well, what could I have done better?
Yes.
But past it, I don't regret it at all. And I don't look back and say, oh my gosh, why didn't I, or have that resentful nature.
Yeah, and what's crazy is like I see you on social media all the time doing what you're doing, all the photo shoots, and you're presenting what matters to you and you're advocating all the time. But I'm not going to lie, like social media stalked you all throughout Miss for America week. And I was like, yes, my girl, she's up there. Yeah. She's not just in the top 16. She's coming for it, And it's even when we don't win, we still do, particularly when we take that time to call a spade. And you're like, I don't call it a failure. I call it this opportunity that I had. And I get the time to reflect back on it and say, did I do the best that I could? Yes or no? And I hope that answer is always yes. Yeah. And for you, I'm like, I don't know that you could have done anything different. And as I always say to any of the girls that I know, different judges, different results. Different day, different results. Yeah. And sometimes it's just that that marginal fraction of a point that makes all the difference in the world. That,
and if it was meant for you too, right? Like I truly believe that you know, if something is meant for you, won't pass you. It could pass you once, but it won't pass you a second time, right? It's the timing, and the timing isn't something you can control.
Oh,
you
absolutely
just control the prep that goes into it.
Yeah.
And you speak to that when you've been in the industry for, is it 19 years now?
Oh my gosh,
you've been
forever. I started competing just after high school.
Okay.
So, it's been a long time. Wow. I don't want to count the years. Like, I'm going to date myself here.
It's been a few,
a few years. Not a big deal. Yeah. And I went into it like starry-eyed, not knowing what the heck I was doing.
Yeah.
And I just, grown up watching Miss USA and Miss Universe and Miss America. And I was like, I want that. I need that in my life, because not only am I a competitive person by nature, I feel like it's that opportunity to grow.
Totally.
Like, pageantry is like one of those things, again, going back to the women that you meet that are doing these incredible things and open your eyes, you're like, you just become a better person.
Yeah.
If you have the right mindset, you will walk away with so much more than what you anticipated, and it's not always a title and a crown.
Absolutely, and it's the network of women that you get to cultivate and meet and meet virtually.
I know.
And finally get to know them.
Yeah.
You know, it is an amazing part of it. So at the core of pageants, I always like to say that fitness is a huge part of it. Your mental wellness. The mental wellness component we haven't touched on very much in our conversation today, but it's a huge factor that's played out in pageantry. We had a national title holder that had taken her life a couple of years ago now, and I think that's finally opened the conversation of how tough it can be on our mental well-being, and what people don't see outside of the camera, right, outside of those posts that we make in the events. And so how have you dealt with, and I feel like everyone has those moments. I know I have those moments, even right before this, when I was feeling terrible and I was like, oh my gosh, like, you are not in the mental space that you are always in. And so how do you lift yourself mentally, and continue to pull yourself out of those dark spots that you could happen to be in, whether it's moments, days, or hours?
Yeah, you just don't know. I think it's really important for everyone to understand nobody is immune. Nobody is immune to hard times. Nobody is immune to times in your life where you might feel anxious or depressed.
Right.
Whether we admit that to ourselves or to others, it doesn't matter. You're not immune to it. And in my personal life, I've gone through those fluctuations in those periods. Like, I have been in a season of challenge throughout my entire reign with Petite USA, like personal challenges, career challenges, where there are days where you wake up and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen today. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But you always have to have that anchoring reason, whatever it is for you. And needless to say, mine is my daughter. Like, nothing holds your feet on the ground like a child will. I'll tell you that much. And if you can't do it for yourself, some days you just have to do it for your kids or for your parents or someone that's depending upon you. You find that silver lining. And I'm a big fan of stoicism.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of looking at challenges as opportunity. And I say, when your mind is on that goal, those obstacles will shrink away, because you don't need to go through that obstacle and ram your head against that obstacle. You can go around it, you can build over it, you can dig under it. It's all about your innovation and your creativity. And that's not to say that I also hate what I call toxic positivism. Like, just think positive, it's fine, everything's great, it's not that bad, suck it up. No, absolutely not.
You can embrace that.
You can embrace it. Like, my favorite thing is, like, have you heard the saying, are you going to boss up or are you going to cry about it?
Yeah.
I'm like, first of all, I'm going to do both.
Right. I'm going to cry about it, and then I'm going to level it up.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, I can be in my feels. I have a playlist that's called I'm Sad, but it's kind of a vibe.
Right.
And you listen to it, you have you save your tears for the pillow or wherever you feel safe doing that, and then you go on and you just get on to the next. Like, if we think about it, you've already survived the worst day of your life. You've already made it past it, and having been in the military and where suicide is ever prevalent.
Oh, yes.
It's horrible. It's scary. It's dark. It can put you in a
real
horrible place, right? And I'm no stranger to that. I know how PTSD, no matter if it's from military service or if it's from a previous relationship or if it's from a traumatic experience in your life, those moments will come back and they will hit you hard.
And at any point, right?
At any
point. It could be a trigger when you're shopping. And
you
then,
don't know.
you see something, you hear
Right.
something, and it's just there.
Yeah, and so you have to have the mental fortitude to start recognizing what those triggers are. You have to have the mental fortitude to go, I want to be better. And that is the first step. And then the next is, what does your system of support look like?
Right.
Who are you going to? Is it your therapist? Is it your family? Is it your best friend? You know, and how we collectively deal with these things. And I've had so many friends tell me, I don't want to talk about this because I don't want to put that burden on you. And I'm like, you're not putting a burden on me. You're laying it out in front of both of us, and we're both looking at this.
Yeah.
And let's try and be objective about this.
Yeah, and it's so okay to talk to someone, because those people that are around you, especially during those moments when you feel like you don't matter to anyone, know that you truly. I mean, it's when you're no longer around, how many people go out there and speak on your behalf, and so sometimes it's just so hard to realize that when you're in those moments.
Absolutely.
But you also captured something that I've highlighted before, and that's it's okay for you to hold on to an emotion or a feeling, and be in it for a minute, whether it's listening to that playlist or really embracing that, but then trying to transition out of that, and whether it's talking to someone or doing another activity to just take your mind off of it, sometimes will help you get out of those places.
Yeah, and the other thing is resiliency. We can't get more resilient without trials and tribulations.
Absolutely.
And with every reoccurrence and how we deal with it, and that experience and that development of emotional maturity, we get there. And I love to read. I love to listen to audiobooks. And one of my favorite modern day philosophers is Ryan Holiday.
Okay.
And he has a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's talking about all of that, how obstacles can truly make us better is if we open our eyes and go, I'm going to rise above that challenge, and I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to do the self-work and the outer work to make sure that I put myself in the best position as possible. Because sometimes you do have to be your own best, like your own cheerleader and your own fan. Yeah. It's like, make yourself the hero of your story.
Totally. Yeah, because you are your story, right? Like everyone else is side characters, right? Like, and you're the same for them, right? Like you are side characters in other people's lives, but it goes back to the perspective that you have, and really shedding light on your own way of empowering yourself and getting yourself out of something. And it's okay to lean on other people and get that support system involved when you need it.
Always.
But at the end of the day, you're so much more powerful. We have gone for quite a bit of time, and I haven't even asked you if you have anything you wanted to highlight. So as you're thinking through if there's something I didn't touch on, I just want to remind folks that I have Catherine with us today, here with us on KUHS Denver. She is a title holder. She's a mama. She's also in the business industry. She's an ambassador for beauty, has served our nation, and so many other things that we can't fit into an hour long. But I'm trying to do my best in highlighting like everything she's done with us. So was there something I didn't touch on that we want to guide this conversation into?
Oh my goodness. Well, ultimately at the end of the day, I think when we talk about ourselves, it can be a little bit awkward, and I don't want to be like, oh, look at all the things that I've done. I think it's more about embracing what everybody can do, because it can be like we said, we stalk each other on social media and we see all the things that we're doing, but ultimately, this comes from time and psychology and time spent where I'm developing other businesses or I'm developing other people and coaching and things like that. It's you need to act like the ultimate ideal version of yourself. What would your ideal self be doing in these moments?
Right.
If you're saying, okay, I want to be the healthiest that I've ever been, whatever that means to you, whether it's a weight goal, whether it's I want to run a marathon, and you're in those moments of indecision and in those moments of, I don't want to do this, you have to ask yourself, what would my ideal self do? Would I sit down on the couch and take a nap? Or would I just go out there and even if I'm not feeling it, just start running and see where it takes me? Just so things like in that moment, like
self-checks.
Little self-checks, yeah. I'm curious to know what yours are. I want to know, because you've overcome so much adversity, and now you're advocating, And I see what you do on a daily basis, but I want to know what you do in those moments of privacy.
It is. It's tough, and it's tough because people don't see the struggle that's behind it, right? And so you raised a great comment when you were sharing, like, here's how you're advocating and you're posting those photos and everything. And there can be days that I'm posting those amazing, beautiful photos that I am feeling god awful, right? So before this, I was sharing with our producer Henry, that's back there. He was like, "Oh, are you okay?" When I first came in, he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Actually, I'm really feeling it today. I've got a rare disease, and today it's one of those triggers." And right before getting ready, if I'm going to be super personal and vulnerable about it, right? Like right before coming here, I had my glasses on in my home, my sunglasses on in my home. All the blinds were closed, and I was sitting on my bathroom floor in the dark. Because I was dealing with that migraine, I was dealing with that nausea, and it took me, over 30 minutes just doing that. And then getting up and getting ready so I can come here, right, and be able to have this awesome opportunity to interview and talk with you a little bit more. But those are the things that people don't see, right? Like it ebbs and flows throughout the day, and the hours sometimes can be longer. And those times that you're feeling the worst, you really have to pull on your purpose, and you pull on the why behind it, right?
Absolutely.
And for me, I always, you shared your daughter, and that's such a great reason, right? Like for getting up and for impacting someone. She's a sponge, and I'm sure she gets some of those things, right, from seeing or hearing and all of that. But for me, it's, I have survived 2 aneurysms for a reason, right? Like, and I was chosen to have those particularly so I can not only grow through that, but I can continue to persevere and impact others. So even at the worst moments, I'm still here, right?
Yeah.
And so it's recognizing that and encouraging yourself through those painful times.
Yeah, and you just hit the nail on the head. You recognize yourself, because there are days where it just hurts. It hurts, and you feel that pain, not only physically but emotionally. And I think it's also important to recognize that on those days where we just can't prevail over it, that we're kind and gentle to ourselves and recognize that we never have to relive this day ever again. Only mentally if we choose to.
Yeah.
And if we do, I hope it's for the purpose of going, I did it and I survived, and I'm going to be gentle with myself, and I'm going to appreciate my body, I'm going to appreciate my mind. It's carried me to this point, and it will continue to bring me to where I need to be.
Absolutely. And a big part of that too is, feeling like you can accept if you don't want to do things. It's okay for you, those days where you don't want to work out or you don't want to do this, and you have the choice of not having to push yourself to it, to say, okay, I'm not going to do that, and really listen to yourself and listen to your body. And I get those, I also train like you. I'll go to a gym or I'll stay at home and I'll do those things, but there are times where I wake up and I'm like, I'm not feeling it today.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
There's absolutely days, yeah. And sometimes you even do get your point to the point of, I'm in the gym. Happened to me this week where I was just like, you know what, I'm going to close it out. I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to avoid the injury, because that's going to set me further back than, just not doing it in the first place. And you're absolutely right. Like, it's okay. You can have a day off. You can have a week off. It's just about what the intent is with that, and understanding, okay, if I don't do this today, am I doing it for the right reasons or not doing it for the right reasons?
Right. And the effort and like you're saying, the intentionality, the effort that you put into it, even getting to the gym, even getting yourself up, those are successes along the way. And even if it is less than what you generally would do, or it doesn't look like how you wanted it to look like, or you're not seeing the results that you're seeing or you're wanting to see, it's still a success that you are moving the needle on that, and you're acting on it, and you have that mind space.
Yeah, and like you said, you're moving the needle, and success is not linear. Nothing that we do in life is linear, and if we had that straight path plan, oh boy, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Totally.
You just have to adapt and overcome and be really flexible.
I can't think of any road that's just a straight shot anyways, right? Like, there are curves, there are cracks, and there are,
there's potholes. There might be a sinkhole, for goodness
sake. There's oncoming, right? Like, there are traffic that's consistently coming at you as you're going, and that's life, right? It's like you're driving the road and you're making your best opportunity to avoid accidents, but if you have them, you still pick up from them and you recover and you repair, and you learn what to avoid.
And that kind of brings me like to the thought and the mind space of, well, when is it time to jump ship? Do we accept quitting as an option? And just by our nature and culture and society, like, failure is not an option.
Right.
Like, you don't quit. You it doesn't matter. Like, you can kill yourself doing it, but you don't quit. And I often think about that, particularly with women and women in resiliency. Like, when does it make sense to stop? When does it make sense to quit? When does it make sense that we need to abandon that plan and either adapt so we're not hurting ourselves or our purpose?
Right.
Or do we just let it go?
Yeah.
And we call it a learning experience.
And I think, a big piece for my answer for that would be when it's no longer healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Like when it's taking away, whether it's your physical, mental, or just your being. And if it is competing for 30 years and it's no longer something that is positive for you, that's when you hang up your shoes. And not to discourage anyone, I want you to keep going. Like, you should keep improving. But when it's no longer that positive for you, that's when you start letting it go.
When it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
When it just doesn't make sense anymore. If it's doing more detriment to you, and that doesn't mean if, for instance, if I decide to retire permanently from pageantry, that doesn't mean I can't be involved. I can still go watch all the pageants I want. I can still coach. I could become a director. I can produce. There's so many avenues. And sometimes it takes that one little moment of reflection and illuminating your thoughts to go, okay, you know what? This is okay. And I think it's okay to be okay with that permission to say, we're setting it aside. We're going to put that on the shelf. We can look back at it as a fond memory, and then we just keep going on our way.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, where can people find you socially? So if they are interested in following you, reading some of the things that you're doing, let's share with them the platforms and your handles and all that.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so my personal platform and handle, which does admittedly get very chaotic, and you're going to find everything from pageantry to fitness to my 8-year-old's competitive dance team on there. It's a little bit of everything. There's a lot of food involved. That is at Kate Bambi, and that's CATE Bambi, like the deer, on Instagram. For my beauty ambassador page for Just Right Cosmetics, it's JRC Cosmetics Beauty Ambassador. Would love to have you there. We're actually getting ready to do some interviews with some beauty people and industry insiders, and there's going to be some giveaways. And I tell you what, I love those palettes. I love the lashes. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
And then finally, for my international title, it is Ms. Universal Petite 2022. And that's going to stay mine forever. So even after I give up that title, I hope that you will continue to follow it to see all things about Petite USA, Universal Petite, and about all of our other countries that are starting to participate for you with it. And we have Britain this year.
Oh,
Great
that's
Britain and the
exciting.
United Kingdom.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to see that. And it's really growing and expanding. And it's going to be a really diverse and interesting group this year.
That's what I love about pageantry. We've talked a lot about it today and a lot of the roles and the benefits around it. But, one of the things that it's continued to do over the decades that it's been around is adapt to different communities and different countries. And it's exciting when you see another country come in the fold because it's more women that are starting to also embrace this in their lives. And especially when it's countries where they have less than opportunities to participate and really have their voice heard. So
absolutely,
I love that.
And what's crazy too is I think that there is a system for everyone. If you are not a fan of the swimsuit section, there's ones that don't even have it, or they've replaced it with fitness wear, or they've replaced it for talent. There's really no end to the opportunity in pageantry. There is something for everyone, whether you're looking for scholarships or just an amazing prize package, or modeling opportunities, or scholarships. Like, there is something for everyone.
Absolutely.
There really is.
Well, that is such a great note for us to end on. Make sure that you do follow Kate outside of this. Thank you so much for being on here with me. Again, you were on KUHS Denver. Today's segment was health and wellness with the Self-Care Boss. We'll be back on here next week. We'll be on here every single week on Friday, hopefully moving forward, right? As I continue to feel amazing and great, highlighting other pageants, other title holders and their impact that they've done. We've got an amazing lineup and some other local businesses that will be coming on here as well by the end of this month. So thank you so much for tuning in with us. If you're watching this in the morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever it is you're watching, thanks for engaging and for hitting the share button so others can see that we were live and can also enjoy some of this awesome content. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and I hope everyone has an awesome weekend.
Hey guys.